Hey, Mr. Lambert. How old are you?
You mean in human years?
Yes.
I don't really believe in keeping track of that kind of thing, Hubie. You know, age is just a state of mind.
That's why I played T-ball till I was 25.
To another episode of What the Hell Happened to Them. This week, Joe, it's a homecoming. We're back with the Sandman. We'd like to thank you all for joining us. And this week, we have a very special guest we'd like to introduce. Emily Coleman is a TV writer, showrunner. I have worked with her in the past on her sitcom pilot, Live Wire. Emily, say hello to everybody.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Emily, very funny writer, has a very interesting voice and shares my love of sitcoms, so we're happy to have you joining us this week. Joe, what is our movie this week?
Hubie Halloween!
Yes, and of course we'd like to thank our producer, Lev Van Rensselaer, on the audio boards, keeping us dialed in as we go. And our sponsor this week is Yo Mama. Yo Mama, Lev? Is this... Maybe it's a typo. Maybe it's Joe's mama. Joe, did your mother sponsor this podcast?
You do not talk about my mama.
What? She might have been. She might have been of our benefactor.
Do not be mentioning my mama.
All right, Joe. While Lev gives me more details on our sponsor, Joe, will you give us a plot recap of Hubie Halloween?
I'd love to. Despite his devotion to his hometown of Salem and its Halloween celebration, Hubie Dubois is a figure of mockery for kids and adults alike. But this year, something is going bump in the night, and it's up to Hubie to save Halloween.
Well, Joe, that was so good, I'm going to pretend you didn't read that off of some website. Emily, you sort of mentioned off air that you are not sort of a frequenter of Adam Sandler's oeuvre. Is that correct?
This is completely true.
I don't blame you at all.
Excuse me?
Listen, before I was forced to do this podcast, I also was avoiding most Adam Sandler films. But now I have been drawn into the cult of the Sandman, and probably here to stay. But if you can get out while you can, Emily, maybe do that. I don't know. But
I don't know
have you seen any of his movies?
I don't know if I ever fully entered. It was a brief. Yeah, so I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my God, have I not seen a single Adam Sandler? But I've seen 50 First Dates. I feel like I've seen parts of other ones and then turned them off. But I've seen the entirety of 50 First Dates, and I remember actually enjoying it. I think I was like a teen, but I remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's impressive that you have avoided so many Adam Sandler films, because as of this movie, he has been in 42 films in his, 30-year career. He can't...
It's incredible. It's a feat.
And this is what I want to talk about before we dive into the movie itself today, because Adam Sandler is probably one of the most prolific filmmakers, because he's sort of part of the Happy Madison production team. He's one of the most prolific filmmakers of our era. I think he's only rivaled in sort of the years he's been active by Jean-Luc Godard, famous French filmmaker, who's been doing this for 70 years. And it just feels weird that, especially watching a movie like this, which is just so very unusual, it's like he and Quentin Tarantino are like the only two people in Hollywood that have carte blanche to do whatever they want in whatever movie. Joe, Emily, how do you think Adam Sandler was able to get to this point, and why do you think he's one of the few people that has been able to get here and stay here?
He makes the money. Come on. The guy makes $100 million for his first 25 films.
I did.
Come on.
I made a note, like, as I was watching, the note is just, how much power does Adam Sandler have? Like, that was the literal note, because I was just like, what does he have on someone, or is he just that great of a guy, or like how could he make these films, and why isn't anyone stopping him, I guess.
Well, so here's sort of the weird thing, Emily. As I was sort of beginning this podcast and talking to some of like these interns I was working with at the time at my old company, I was talking to them that I was working on this project, and they were like 16. They were like these high school age kids, and they all were like, that sounds awesome. We love the Sandman. And I go, now, even though he's not making really great films, and they go, all his films are great. You gotta watch them. And I don't know, like
you gotta love it.
Like there, and you can kind of see it in this film. This film in particular, it's sort of exemplary. Like there's something for people of all ages to kind of enjoy. There's a little storyline for, the kids if you're middle school or in high school. There's a storyline for adults if you're sort of childish adults. Like I don't know,
yes.
like there is this.
I won't take it personally.
There is this sort of broad appeal going on in these films that are, and quite frankly, outside of the first movie he did for Netflix, which was made before the deal with Netflix was even inked. His movies that he's made in the Netflix era have all been, okay. They've been perfectly fine films. They're not trying to be anything besides what they are. They give you exactly what you expect. And I don't know, is a comedy, I think, Emily, as a comedy writer, I ask you as a comedy writer, I should say, I think comedy is really hard to do in the feature form. I think it's a lot easier to digest in 22 minutes versus sustaining it for 90 minutes. So, I don't know, what comedy movies are you usually being drawn to, and how do they differ from this one?
For sure. I think absolutely. I think the longer you go with a comedy, the harder it is to sustain, just because, comedy is about heightened emotions. And so to keep a heightened emotion for that long is really difficult. And I think I've actually really I enjoyed comedic films most of the time, because I'm not a huge, visual gags are not always where it's at for me. I'm much more of a verbal comedy person.
Yeah.
I know. I'm literally the worst fit for this. What happened is I found out Patrick had a podcast. I was like, I want to be on your podcast. I didn't even know what it was about. I was just like, I want to be involved. So the comedies I kind of like are usually I love Office Space. That's probably a favorite film. So it's much pretty much the opposite.
Mike Judge.
So it's also not my taste. So I don't know if I'm judging it completely fairly, because my taste is so different. With the throwing up gag, I just wrote "oh no" down. I was like, oh, I see now. I see what I've gotten myself into.
But what the real question should be is, what did you think of that thermos?
Honestly, I didn't hate the thermos.
It's incredible. It's so great how much mileage they get out of that thermos. Every time I'm like, wow, I did not see that coming, and boy, did I love it. When he used it as a grappling hook to get away from the bullies, oh, did I laugh? I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I felt a real hard start. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, I like the thermos too. I like the power tool made me laugh when he cuts in. I was like, okay. I was looking for something to like too, because I was like, I can't just be negative about this. But I was like, all right, I got that one. That one got me.
Listen, it's understandable. Certainly not a film for everyone. I get what you're saying. I guess for me, the vomit I actually kind of liked, because it was so absurd, and the way it rockets out of his mouth, and how unaffected he is, before or after. It's this really quick aside. But later on, there are a couple of fart jokes that feel a lot less interesting, and a little. And I know the vomiting.
I like those fart jokes.
I know the vomiting is juvenile, but the fart jokes feel juvenile and uninspired, and don't play into the absurdist.
Did you describe the vomiting as inspired?
Yeah, I think because what you're doing there is setting up the tone of this movie, where the physics of this world aren't exactly what we should expect. So we're getting a little bit of a heightened reality. We're getting this sort of quirky, I frequently say, absurdist, old school Adult Swim random humor that some of his better films have been able to take advantage of in his later years.
Zohan.
It's part of, Zohan, or even his earlier film like Billy Madison became such a hit because of it. Like, they weren't sort of tied down to story structure. They just wanted to let random crap kind of happen and come out of nowhere, and everybody's sort of okay with it. Like, because there was a point where, like, Steve Buscemi could be a werewolf in this movie, and because of that vomiting, I'd buy it. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then he wasn't, which is okay too, but like, I was sold on Steve Buscemi once again playing a werewolf in an Adam Sandler film.
I think Steve Buscemi, no, I love Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi popped. I think once Steve Buscemi pops up, I'm like, okay, he's going to do something fucking weird just because it's Steve Buscemi. So like, I don't know if you need I get what you're saying. It kind of like sets the tone.
Yeah.
And it definitely does. Like, you know what kind of movie it's going to be. Even before you should know, because if you're knowing any of Adam Sandler's kind of like.
And you see that Happy Madison logo pop up and it's all spooky like. That's nice.
Yeah. I don't know, because like you mentioned Adult Swim, Patrick, and but I think that like sometimes with that kind of absurdity or randomness, it is a little more. It's sometimes surprising, like you're not expecting it, and I do think for most of the beats of this, I was like, that's about what I felt was.
All right, there's some things I want to dive into.
Yeah.
So the beginning, it opens up. We're in a mental hospital.
Yes.
We see a cart of wieners and Jello. All right.
Yeah.
And then it's revealed that Ben Stiller is reprising his role from Happy Gilmore, his uncredited role from Happy Gilmore, where he plays Hal L.
Yeah, that was a note that I had for you, Joe. Like, was this a callback to it, or was he just being the older version of that character?
I think it was a call.
Is it confirmed that it's
the version of that character?
It's the
I was
same
just so
person.
happy to see him. And then he's trying to wake up the patient, and it's revealed that it's a pile of Jello and a big wiener for a penis.
Yes.
Incredible. I clapped. I stood up and clapped.
You gave this movie a standing ovation.
I certainly did. And I was proud. And I was like, oh my God, I am in for a ride.
Well, Joe, so it sounds like from context clues, you very much enjoyed this movie.
I loved this movie. I was waiting to see what you guys thought, but 5 stars.
Yes, Emily disliked it. I think I'm sort of in the middle. So, Joe, tell us, Emily sort of told us what wasn't working for her. What is working for you in this movie?
That goddamn thermos was great.
Yes.
I loved the thermos. I loved all the callbacks. I appreciated the callbacks. It was such fan service, but I'm like, well, I'm a fan, so you're servicing me. The Swiss Army thermos. The Doyles, the kids in the bike. They were throwing bags of shit at him at one point, and they just had so many bags of shit. Then they're throwing knives at him. I'm like, where are they getting this? This is great.
Yeah.
June Squibb, the amazing 90-year-old June Squibb, who was tremendous with all of her outlandish shirts. Boner donor. Hold on, I wrote it down because it's so great.
Yeah, production. While you're looking that up, production design working sort of overtime in a lot of the clothing and sort of the background sets, like hiding jokes in there. You know,
I got it.
Yeah, what do you got, Joe?
She's wearing a shirt that says, "If you can read this, you are in fart range." And I'm like, just pretty cool that a grandma is down to rip a bunch of farts and be kind of proud of it.
Well, I think the joke was that she didn't know, like, you know,
that's
the content of what her shirts
she thinks
were.
They're mistakes.
Yes. Yeah.
I assumed she didn't know what any of them were too. I was like, but I guess they don't establish that. She could have knowledge of some of the shirts and confused about other ones.
That's true. They only sort of explore that first one and have a discussion about it. So for me, going back to our earlier discussion, Emily and Joe, comedy movies are really hard. As much as I love sitcoms, comedy movies are very hard for me to kind of sit through and get through. But
speaking of which,
yeah.
So this movie was set at an hour and 43 minutes, but you probably saw it towards the end that it was winding down, and then if you look at the runtime, 90 minutes. There's 13 minutes of credits.
Yeah,
Whoa.
they really went
Excellent.
overtime on their sort of dramatist personae right away.
So great. I loved it. We got Michael Chiklis, Ray Liotta. Let's get into these. This is great.
Oh, Joe, let me say my point here. So, so hard for me to do
really
comedy
glad-
movies. What I think I sort of like, especially about these Netflix era films that Adam Sandler's doing, is that they feel more like television because Adam Sandler is bringing in the same cast each time and sort of putting them in different roles. So it kind of feels, I don't know, it's like an extended, I don't know, bit of improv comedy or something that's going on, and sort of these characters come back and like, I wonder what Tim Meadows is doing this movie, or I wonder, oh look, Colin Quinn has randomly showed up. Oh hey, Kenan Thompson's added to the group now. I could look forward to that in future movies. He's doing great here, and you got to.
Blake Clark, Rob Schneider.
Yeah, that also means you have to deal with Kevin James, pretty much every movie. But
are we going to talk about him?
Can I talk? I think Julia Bowen, by the way, finally returning to the Sandler universe now that Modern Family is at long last over. This time, actually looking like Julia Bowen, so that's helpful for me. She has.
Why do you always say Julia?
Oh, okay. This time, she has probably the best description of the Kevin James character that I think is actually describing Kevin James, where she says he is self-confident for no reason. Genius.
Wait. Before we get into Kevin James, sorry, because I feel like we're going somewhere else here. I wanted to talk about the Adam Sandler, like that cast.
Yeah.
The other thing I love that I actually really did like this is that he has some of the newer SNL people in, which I think is kind of cool. That because I know you were talking about like his reputation is that he's just like a nice guy, so that he threw like Mikey Day in and Melissa Villaseñor. I like that because they're still on right now, so I like to see that he has those SNL ties still.
Yeah, he does. He I think he even went on a few times during the quarantine episodes. He like did some skits for them just a few months ago. So like he's actually been kind of active too. He's been putting little videos. Joe sends me videos he puts out on his social media, little comedy skits he does with his family, all featured in this movie too. In fact,
yes, his daughters.
His daughter's
so
playing his act.
Two little girls.
His daughters are the two little girls. His wife is the news reporter.
Just like Harley Quinn. Like one of them.
One of the Harley Quinns. Yeah, she's the prominent one at the end of the film too, who's reporting from his house. So like, yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, I was just surprised that, I do want to talk about Julie Bowen, who is incredible. I just thought, I love the idea that the perfect woman is a diner waitress with foster kids. Like it was just the most like absurd, like domestic softest thing for me.
So thirsty for Sandman though. Like
so at the beginning it was sort of like, they're really setting it up hard. I wonder what he's done to deserve this. But kind of as the movie goes on, like she's sort of kind of a little crazy. But like,
this is honestly though one of my least favorite tropes ever. Like I hate it. I hate it so much when it's like a woman, the only like this like super hot woman, and she's so horny for like an idiot because he's only an idiot. Only a guy who's an idiot could treat her well. Yeah. It's just like, I hate it so much. For some reason, it reminded me, it happens all the time, but it happened in Baywatch, which I only saw because it was like a 3-for-1 at a drive-in.
Are you talking about the Dwayne Johnson movie?
Yeah. Oh, did you guys do that?
No, we're not there yet. It is the key art we use for when we do the Rock episodes, though.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I saw it. So
you might need to come back for that one.
Yeah, there's a moment in that where it's the same kind of thing where this beautiful woman is like, whatever. But sorry, what I wanted to talk about before was with Julie Bowen and the foster kids. I didn't know if they were trying to say that the two girls like were both fostered separately. I was like, because they look exactly alike. Because I got them confused at one point, even with the age difference. And now I'm like, oh, that makes total sense that those are his daughters. They're cute.
Yeah, I sort of agree with your point, Emily, about women sort of being used like that in film, and it was bothering me for maybe 3/4 of this film. But then once she gets to, like, she meets up with Sandler at the the lighthouse. Like it feels like from then on, even at the end when she's making out with the TV, that they've sort of like pushed it to this extreme logical end. Like she is just as ridiculous as he is. And like that is sort of what's making them the good match. Like they're both sort of like on the fringes of the world and how they're perceiving it.
I would have liked it more if she. Yeah. Do we go in chronological order? Can we talk about?
Yeah, we just jump around. It's okay.
Yeah.
I would have liked it more if she was the one who was kind of revenging him, because I think it would have put a little more agency back in her hands, and I think it would have been funnier if she was. I don't know. If a woman was really in love with me, I would want her to kidnap my bullies and tie them up and maybe set them on fire. Like I would rather a girlfriend than a mom do that.
Yeah, you don't want your mom to do that?
That's my personal preference.
No, I would agree with Emily. When it looked like the movie was heading in that direction, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting way for us to go. I was, but like, and then when it ended up being June Squibb, I was for the whole movie. I was like, why? It seems like she's playing this Kathy Bates role in Waterboy. I wonder why. And Kathy Bates has been in a few of these movies. I wonder why they didn't just bring her back. And I think the reason is if you bring in Kathy Bates, it more easily telegraphs that the mom did it than if you bring in June Squibb. So like I think maybe that was like a conscious casting choice. Like, well, we can't bring Kathy Bates. We risk ruining the ending of our film.
Patrick, June Squibb is 90 years old and still bringing that heat.
I know. Her and Dick Van Dyke, they can't be stopped. They refuse to be stopped. I would watch that movie. Yeah, that'd be great.
Give me the American remake of Amore.
Sorry, Emily, not a joke for you. I'm sorry. But that was.
I like how much you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so. for the the 8 people in the audience that will get it, it's a really good one.
Softball for you guys.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Kevin James is really bad, right?
Yeah, God, Kevin James.
That beard, Patrick.
Oh my God, thank you.
Like,
go on.
I don't know if either of you have noticed this. I've complained about this a lot. It just feels like even with the new people coming into this ensemble, the people you mentioned, and Kenan Thompson and a few of these other new folks, Kevin James still feels like the only man who's not, I don't know, acting in the same style. Like he just doesn't have what they have. He's not gelling with everybody else. It's it's a big part of what annoys me about him. He's just not in the same movie.
I don't enjoy it.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on Kevin James's performance here, Emily Coleman?
My thoughts were maybe they did the glasses and the beard so he didn't have to act at all. Like, so because he never takes them off, you know what I mean? So that would be my hat trick if anyone ever put me in front of the camera, because I'm a horrible actor. I would just never have to emote. So it's all good.
There you go. Joe.
Adam Sandler in his yearbook was given the title "Most Likely to Marry His Pillow." I like that.
I don't even know if that would be something that would be on people's radar back whenever he graduated in the 70s. Like that's sort of a newish phenomenon. But it brings us to a good point, Emily, Joe, and all the films and TV we've watched about high school stuff. How often do you feel they get it right? And when they don't, why do you think it either moves too melodramatic or too cartoonish? Like what makes us sort of trend in that direction? Like how much do people even care about high school superlatives? Is that even still a thing anymore?
It was we had them and people did care. But they were it was dumb shit. It was like best hair and like stupid shit like that. As far as like how I think it's almost never right how high school is represented. Partly, because I don't think it's ever about like, I mean, you look at like Bo Burnham doing stuff like 8th grade or things like that, where you're trying to do like a very like intimate look at it. But I think most of the time when people are writing about high school, it's from a sense of like nostalgia or kind of like therapy. Like they're trying to process what they've been through. And so it's never really about that moment or those characters. It's like this weird retrospective thing. And then, so I think it's both. I think it's melodramatic. So I guess I'm thinking more from a comedy perspective. Melodramatic CW thing, which is like, that's because I hate that shit because people want to see teens fuck and they feel okay about it because they're like 25-year-olds and it creeps me the fuck out. Okay. That's
no, 8th grade's a good film that you bring up because, and at least for Joe and I, 8th grade for us was middle school. And I think films about middle school like that, or a Submarine from England, or Fully Cooley from Japan, that deal with an even more tenuous and difficult time in people's lives, middle school, generally try to approach it from, a more earnest level, and kind of examining what that pressure and what that changing body and the horror the horror and dread and anxiety that come from it feel like. But high school, there's sort of this. I don't know if you ever got this line when you were growing up, Emily. But like, it would always annoy me when they'd be like, "You got to enjoy high school because these are the best years of your life." And I'm thinking, like, I hope not, because it's gonna. Yeah. We're not starting on a high hill, and if it's going down from here, I'm out now.
I felt exactly the same way. I was like, what the fuck are you people talking about? And they're like, they're always like, oh, it's fun. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I have braces, like, I, like, tits are huge, but, like, I'm still 14 and everything's just, like, fucking terrible right now. Yeah. Everyone's mean. I don't understand sex. Like, I'm not old enough to drink or smoke or so, fuck that advice. It's so bad.
Yeah, Joe, was high school the best years of your life? Yeah, that's what it's weird that people do have this nostalgia for it, and I don't know, like, where does that come from?
I like high school movies, but I don't like my time in high school. It's probably like, because like, oh, I wish my high school was like that. Oh.
I see. There's more Hollywood wish fulfillment stuff going on. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. Not too surprising there. Everybody is. Yeah, go on, Joe.
I'm just going to say, I feel like when we were in high school, it was like right at the cusp of like, oh, it still sucks. But then like the year after us was like, oh, we're going to be nice to each other now because we realize that that's better than to actually be pieces of shit to each other.
And high school feels worse now. Emily, when you were in high school, were smartphones sort of prevalent?
I was at the very end of it. Like when I was a senior, I think is when everyone started having iPhone. Because like for most of my high school career, I had like a flip phone. So
yeah,
I wasn't at that Gen Z yet.
Most of my life, I had a flip phone, Joe. It's only been the last 2 years I had a smartphone. But like smartphones didn't come out when we were in high school, Emily. So I can only imagine that like right now when I don't know, like it feels like way more stressful to be a high school student now because of those phones. I mean,
undergrad was stressful because of the like, and even then when you're a little older, but you still have that like kind of social voyeurism and the FOMO. But I can't imagine having that like because I had Facebook, so you kind of have it, but having it like in my hand at all times when I'm 16, like, no, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. When you're at your like most vulnerable, it's the perfect time to be glued into that thing. But so like the high school party in this film, have any of you ever been to a high school party that intense and well put together?
And so ready to murder.
Yeah, they were ready to murder. Yeah, so that's sort of that absurdism that I sort of was kind of referencing there. Or like when Adam Sandler throws the cat suddenly, or even like moments later when the cat has like giant eyes when Julie Bowen threatens them. Like these, I don't know, like overall, the story is whatever. It's mostly predictable up until sort of the end, but like those kind of weird, quirky jokes. Shaq, also now part of the Sandler crew, it seems, showing up, being the female version of the Samuel L. Jackson character from Do the Right Thing, is like, again, just like, and then his wife is this.
Yes, I think that's Betsy. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Are you talking about Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, who is Shaquille O'Neal's wife?
Betsy Sidaro. Yeah, she's very funny. She does Doughboys a lot.
Okay. Yeah, terrific. Like, and
she IRL has the craziest voice. Like her voice is actually pretty.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So these just small things. Like, and there's even like a kind of cute moment between Julie and Sandler where she like mixes in like hot sauce or syrup with like his weird soup container. Like she's just kind of goofing on him. I don't know, like that. Yeah, these smaller moments and this recurring cast is kind of what draws me to these Sandler films more than, I don't know, whatever throwaway script they've kind of built off the bones of.
You guys are making me like it more. Like,
that is what we want to hear.
That's what I did. That's what I did for Joe and Waterboy many, many years ago.
Oh, the spitting.
He hated it. Okay, we won't get into that though. All right, Joe, it looks like you have something to bring up.
Yes. I just want to bring up when Sandler says it earlier, he's like, Frankenstein. And then like everyone turns around and he like gets time to run away. But then June Squibb does the same thing later on, and like it just the camera turns and it's like she's magically kind of floating into the woods, and it's just like ha 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 ha. And I almost broke down in tears at how beautiful that moment was.
Yeah, June Squibb, sort of pulling her
best supporting
weight
actress.
Yeah,
yes.
June Squibb, every line she's delivering is great in here. What were your thoughts on June Squibb's performance, Emily? Have you seen her in other things? Like I've seen her in Girls and Nebraska.
I know that I have. Like I think that she is one of those actors where like I couldn't name a performance, but I'm sure that I've seen her. Also prolific. No, I loved her. I thought she was hilarious. That little set, like as much as I wish it was Julie Bowen, I did like the twist because that first scene where she's like, something's going to happen because she knows she's going out and taking people. That's cute.
Yeah, she's like, I have to do this before I leave you. And she's like, you going to heaven? And she's like, I'm probably going to hell. She's just
I enjoyed that, yeah.
Like everybody, and then the two crazy Buschemi and Schneider show up and they have like their handguns out and
Schneider's got a blonde hair.
Yeah, I thought it was when the mask gets put on, you see the blonde tufts. You're like, oh, David Spade, the psychopath. Yeah, that's fitting. And then it was David Spade wasn't in this movie at all.
Yeah, I would have loved to exchange Kevin James for Chris Rock. That would have been great, but Chris Rock is too busy filming a 4th season of Fargo and doing a Saw reboot. So I guess he's busy. Yeah,
Chris Rock is sort of the busiest of Adam Sandler's usual crew these days. So he hasn't been, other than a starring role with Sandler in the week of. Yeah, unlike the others, he has a very stable career.
Outside of Adam Sandler,
yeah. Exactly.
Rob Schneider too is like, because Patrick and I were talking about before this about how like there are like actors who work because of Adam Sandler, Kevin James being one of them, and I kind of feel like Rob Schneider is as well. Like I feel like that's where I see him.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't like to see him either. I just really don't. I don't know what it is. Like it's not fair, but every time I see him, I'm like, ugh, gross. Like
it wore off for me.
Well,
at Big Daddy.
Well, it's interesting about Rob Schneider is that I don't think he sort of does these great. I don't think he's great in sort of comedy movies, but some of his stand-up bits actually work pretty well. So he's just one of those comedians that can't kind of transfer it over too well. And I think Sandler sort of realized that, and he gets sort of all these sad sap kind of roles when he's in there. He's usually the butt of everybody's jokes, even though it should be Kevin James. But here we are. So everybody in this town is really horrible to Adam Sandler. Is this the meanest rendition of Our Town that Adam Sandler has put on for us?
Our Town? That's going way over my head.
All right. That's okay.
I'm sorry, Pat. Yeah,
okay.
Cultureless.
Fine. Read some plays, guys. It's a very famous Thornton Wilder. Doesn't matter. It's not even that good. Everybody loves it, though. I don't know why.
Now that I'm thinking about it more, it's kind of... It's the whole fucking Salem thing, right? Because before they were doing the backstory, I was like, why even do this? You don't need to do this. These characters don't need a backstory. But I was like, it's a witch hunt. Like would I ever watch this film again? Absolutely. Is my anger fading off a little bit? It is, because I watched it and I was kind of like mad. I was like, I'm mad that Patrick but I was like, I got myself into this because I insisted I be brought on.
Yeah, I was fine with not telling you about it. Somebody else told you about it. I didn't think it was your jam.
I saw it on social media.
But I'm glad you brought up the witch hunt sort of like little metaphor hiding underneath. It's sort of one of the smarter plot devices. Who is Adam Sandler's scriptwriter on this? Is he because he must have a big hand in that? That's not really a Sandler thing.
He wrote it with his frequent collaborator Tim Hurley.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a little nice bit of touch there. It's sort of a little overly sentimentalized and sort of nailed into our head, but it's more than you would expect from these type of films. And I think at least it works on the level since it's aiming, since it's also meant for children to watch too, that, it's not a bad thing for them to kind of learn. Even though he magically becomes mayor by the end of it and everything.
I do. You know what? Yeah, I was thinking about that too because there were some beats where I was like, "Wait, is this for kids?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's probably meant to be kind of a. Is it meant to like Patrick? You were saying all ages. Is it a family film?
Yeah, that's what I think it's going for here, and that's what I've noticed him transition to more as he got older and he started kids. Like those are he wanted to make movie sort of like what Eddie Murphy tried to do, but worse. They wanted to make movies, that they could watch with their
hold
children.
On. Are you saying Eddie Murphy did it better?
No, Eddie Murphy did it worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess I did phrase that a little wrong, but that was my goal. Eddie Murphy had a hard time transitioning to those family films, but Adam Sandler kind of usually found a way to put himself and sort of why his older audience watched him into those family movies that not only he could watch with his family, but star in with his family so he wouldn't be away from them for too long. It's sort of there's a sweetness to that.
That is sweet, yeah.
And what I guess I got, as much as the movie didn't always make me laugh, I was still sort of brought in by this conception of a character whose voice I was hoping wasn't going to last the whole movie, but it did.
Oh, no. I love the voice.
I think it actually hurt some of his delivery of certain jokes, just sort of the way it's intoned. But I like this idea of a character that's like so terrified all the time, but like loves Halloween and wants people to celebrate Halloween and be safe. And he puts himself in sort of the unnecessary line of duty despite his easy spookability. Like there's just something, it's an easy kind of concept to root for, where he's putting himself in the way of obstacles actively because he cares about his town.
I actually like that too. Yeah.
Yes, welcome, Emily. Welcome to our side.
I feel like it's maybe like Stockholm syndrome or something.
Exactly, that's what I'm telling you. That's exactly what happens. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're sitting down. So the other thing with films is like with film in general. But like if you're sitting down for 2 hours, you don't want to hate it the whole time.
Yeah.
So I think develop an affinity for something just to survive. But I did want to ask you guys as Sandman connoisseurs, has he done that voice before?
I think this voice is new. It's somewhat like an older version of his Waterboy character, it felt like.
Yeah, and the Canteen Boy.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like that. But most of his Netflix films have been him doing wacky characters.
Like Sandy Wexler.
Yeah, outside of like, I think The Week Of. Like even in The Do-Over with David Spade, he does like his Zohan kind of like secret agent voice.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, and I only remember it because it was the clip Lev pulled for the intro to it, and that's sort of like resonating in my head. And then, this previous movie, I guess his last 2 movies for Netflix haven't been characters, but the other 3 or 4 have been. So I think,
Uncut Gems, he was doing a voice.
Uncut Gems, he was doing a voice. That's true. His Indie Spirit Award-winning performance in Uncut Gems. Had a bit of a voice to it. Yeah, he sort of brings these affectations. He's not sort of, I don't know, he's not living and embodying these characters, but the voices usually help kind of sell jokes and get us an inclination of the broad strokes of the character. This one, I think, sort of hurt some of the jokes, even though it gave us a window into what kind of person the character was. Because he's sort of like the Napoleon Dynamite of this town, just a little more competent and older. In my mind.
The Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we had a Napoleon Dynamite in our high school that I will not name.
We did?
Yeah, we did. I'll tell you when we stop recording. But and so I'm just like, oh, of course, this is exactly what that guy would be like, except like he's a lot nicer. I don't know, he's the nicer version of that guy in our high school.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
No. I love the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Like I haven't watched it forever, but it was something I watched with my dad, so we would like do the bits together. Yeah. But for some reason, just now, you said that, and like my brain skipped, and I thought Bonaparte. I was like, he conquered. Like, I don't know what happened, but I was like, I wouldn't say that like Hubie is more competent than him, but I mean, we'll get into that. Okay.
I kind of like that, Napoleon Bonaparte. I'm okay with that. That's a good comp. I've made weirder comps on this show. So it's okay. Joe's always calling me out on them, but I stick by them. So do we like
the name Hubie Dubois? Hubie Dubois.
So I guess, was it Hubie or were they calling him Hubie?
They were calling him Hubie to make fun of him.
I see. Yeah, like they had like a million nicknames for him.
Yeah. I didn't like that they were making fun of him. I thought he was a nice, sweet boy.
You defended him, Joe. Thank you. That's good.
I did. I was like his mother. I was like, Don't listen to them. This is your favorite holiday, and you are a good boy, and you serve to protect.
So we haven't talked yet about sort of the most surprising casting addition to Adam Sandler's universe. Ray Liotta. Joe, you sort of keep up on things. Has Ray Liotta just not been doing a lot? Like, how did he end up in an Adam Sandler film?
I think Ray Liotta's done way too many straight-to-DVD movies.
So now he's on the straight-to-streaming plan?
I don't know. Let me look up. Really
I'm just interested in what made how I don't know, like what made Adam Sandler be like, this, you know who this role would be perfect for? Ray Liotta. Like, have they even ever talked? Has Ray Liotta done comedies before? Like, I just want to know like where Adam Sandler got that idea from and how that began. Are you familiar with Ray Liotta, Emily? Before we talk, and you don't understand what's going on.
No. I always he's kind of a dramatic.
Yeah.
He's always the villain. He's always the creep. So.
Well, he was. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it was sort of weird because he's like very prominent in the beginning of the film, and then he disappears for like 40 minutes, and you're like, oh, is that guy, did he matter? Is he coming back? Why did you bring in Ray Liotta to do that? And then like he comes in real quick and then again disappears.
You know what thought I had like while I was watching this was like, was the crafty just fucking amazing? Like, is that a talent where they're like I just wanted to know the behind the scenes, like what would the impetus, like, I don't know, like as an actor, was there like lobster every day or something? I just was curious. I wanted to know.
Yeah, I
guess he's done a couple of comedies.
Okay. Netflix is notoriously shady with both their budgets and their behind the scenes stuff. So I wonder if we'll ever get to know what sort of went on here.
So the last movie that Ray Liotta was in was Marriage Story. And then the next movie he will be in is the David Chase written and directed prequel to the Sopranos movie, prequel to the Sopranos show, the Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark.
Okay,
wow.
I do vaguely remember him in Marriage Story now, and of course he's going to be in a Sopranos movie. Yeah. That's all he can do, I guess, is gangster films.
What a weird... Hey, it's got the guy from The Class in it, too.
I mean, these comedic chops, though, Patrick, No, I didn't find him.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like an odd use of what his tools are. I don't know what Sandler saw in him or what he hoped he could get. Or just wanted like just be a mean guy. But everybody like Tim Meadows and Maya Rudolph and the little boy, the high schooler, like they did great. And they don't need Ray Liotta's thing to do that. So I don't know why they needed Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta was a voice in Frasier.
Yes, he was. Yep, they do the phone calls during the show. They get big.
You instantly remembered. Yes.
Yeah.
Frasier Green.
Well, yeah, but like any big name celebrity, like that's how any movie star from the early '90s, like that's what they did. They went on as like his call-in patients, and like they could do it from their home, and it was an easy way to get the guest spots. And then at the end of each season, you saw who the guest callers were from that season. So yeah, it was a fun little bit.
I don't remember that. I don't remember them. like seeing who the guest, but you know what? I watched it when I was younger, so I probably wasn't paying attention as much.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Most of those names you probably wouldn't even know. So that's the way to do it. So Emily, I want to talk about sort of your trick-or-treating experiences. So you're from Buffalo, New York. Joe, Emily, I was shocked when the trick-or-treating part began at the end of Act 1. Everybody's going out. I have not seen a trick-or-treat Halloween night so crowded since before 9/11. It has never returned to that since. I don't know how old you were when 9/11 happened, Emily, but Joe and I were in, I think, 5th or 6th grade. And like nobody went out that year, and then I never went out again. And like just so few people started trick or treating for the years that went afterwards. So I was that sort of a similar thing for you?
No, I don't. I was in 1st grade, so I was younger, but that is super weird. No, I didn't notice that because I mean, obviously,
yeah.
I moved to New York. So I was born in Illinois, and then I moved to New York, like actually right after 1st grade. So even, kind of more relevant in the hearts and minds of people, even though we are. Yeah. No, actually, you guys are closer to New York, though. So maybe that's it. But no, I'm serious because I don't remember it being like that at all. But I live in a like a very classically suburban subdivision that's just like filled with like nuclear 2.5 like families, like that kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I think it was always a huge thing.
Okay.
Obviously not that busy, but like no, it was always popping on Halloween. I went trick or treating till I was way too old. But also like I think like my neighborhood is just so conservative and white that like anything that ever happens anywhere, like people can ignore. So maybe that was it too.
Well, don't feel bad about your love of trick or treating. No judgments here on the Sandler podcast. I mean, Joe and I have sat through 8 crazy nights, so who are we to judge?
We did a commentary on it.
But in Buffalo, that's just a quick little interesting question. In Buffalo, since you're so up north, so late in the year, does it get really cold? Does it affect the type of costumes people wear or what time of day they go trick-or-treating?
No, it does. It gets cold, so you gotta get bundled up, but obviously you don't want to fuck up your costume. But it is really cute, like when the trick-or-treaters come and it's like little princesses in like their little puffy jackets.
So would you have respected the take one candy note that Hubie tries to enforce in this movie?
I would, but I'm a compulsive rule following nerd. So I understand that other people. I probably would, in this case, I probably would be Hubie. I'd be like, how dare you? There's a social contract here. You guys are assholes. Like that would be me.
Yeah, Hubie comes out and he's like, Halloween can teach us life lessons about the take one piece of candy. There is something, I don't know, there's something endearing about like just what he gets out of this holiday that most people I've taken for granted or forgotten completely.
I want to know if Sandler's going to do. I hope that he just does a holiday series. That would be fantastic.
Well, so he's on a Hanukkah movie. What?
Really?
It's a terrible. Don't watch it. It's
I was
awful.
gonna make the joke, but I didn't know if it was okay.
No,
Okay.
He did 8 Crazy Nights, which is an animated movie he did back in the early 2000s. It's probably like one of, if not the worst thing I have ever seen. In a visual medium. It is so horrible. Our episode for that is like 3 minutes long because I just didn't want to talk about it.
Wait, Joe, what are Joe's thoughts about?
Yeah, Joe, talk about 8 Crazy Nights.
8 Crazy Nights? All right. Way back when I saw this in the theater with my sister, we went to the Zoetrope in Franklin, and it was a dream come true at that time in 2002. And then when I rewatched it for the first time since then with Patrick, I was like, this movie is a waking nightmare.
Oh, it's so sad.
It's
you
really
returned
bad.
to something.
And
it was heartbreaking.
And a few last instances of Halloween-related BS to call. One is, there are parts of Salem that exist like that, but Sandler has clearly found the nicest part of Salem to film in because it's not usually such a convivial neighborhood. But that's not my biggest complaint is that he goes, the son of Julie Bowen goes to the party with the girl he has the crush on. Are these actors anybody? Do you guys know? You're hipping with it.
Yeah. So Noah Schnapp is the young boy.
Yeah.
The Stranger Things kid.
Oh, okay.
Like kind of one of the main ones. And then it was so weird. I was actually because I was gonna bring it up. Her name is Paris. I don't know how to say her last name, but I saw her at a taping because she was on the show called Alexa and Katie, which is this Netflix thing that. But it's funny because she's very pretty. She's like a very pretty girl. You know, but it's so weird that because I don't know how many like kind of celebrity run-ins or like professional actors you've worked with, but it is weird because you're like on camera, you're like, oh, they're beautiful. And then you see them in person and you're like, I can't believe someone looks like this. Like her face is perfect. Like I was just like, it's creepy how good looking these people are.
Yeah. Those things are harder for me to recognize. People's faces give me some trouble. It's why I got in a fight with Joe in the Big Daddy, the golfing movie. What's that movie, Joe? Happy Gilmore.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe and I got in a fight because he was like, that's Julie Bowen. And I go, that can't be, it's no way. It doesn't even look. So like, faces are tough for me. So I don't know I can't really comment on that regardless of who I've kind of worked with talent wise. But anyway, my point is that she's like, well, if you brought me candy, I won't judge you. And then he opens it up and he has like not only full-size Kit Kats, but king-size Kit Kats. Nobody's giving that away on Halloween anymore. That hasn't happened since like 1997. So I call BS that kid has looted that candy during his trick-or-treating. Not happening. The one person who did it was former U.S. Massachusetts Senator John Kerry. Everybody would crowd his house on Halloween to grab the king-size candy bars. But unless Salem's full of former U.S. senators, I don't think Julie Bowen's son has those candy in his possession.
I like to think that maybe he was stalking her and knew that was candy and went to go buy it.
Okay, you like the stalking take. All right, that
Something
sounds
really
good.
creepy like that. Can I tell you that my brain went somewhere weird where when Tim Meadows, I love that we like know character names.
Yeah.
Tim Meadows and Maya Rudolph stop in the middle of the road and like there's the scarecrow, and my really dark thought was like, what if it was the teen all like stitched up like a scarecrow? Because I've been watching too many, I've been watching Lovecraft Country, and it's really...
yeah, you wanted this movie to be a different genre, it sounds
I did,
like.
yeah. I was like, what if they went real dark?
But I will say on a quick directing level, who directed this movie? Was it Stephen Brill?
Stephen Brill.
What did he
did
do
Little
recently?
Nicky, Mr. Deeds, and Sandy Wexler.
Yeah, usually I don't like his work, but he sort of brought a lot of kind of the classic slasher camera tropes to this film, and they themselves kind of worked as little jokes, kind of lampooning certain plot points that those slasher films kind of have. So, it was sort of an odd attention to detail I don't usually expect from that director, and I don't expect from a Sandler film on kind of that more visual level. So a little extra work being put into this film, surprising me. All right. Well, any other sort of thoughts before we go into our last looks, which for you, Emily, is when we just kind of examine why Sandler might have done this and what it kind of says about the industry letting him do something like this. Yeah. So any thoughts before we get to talking about that?
Oh, just the fucking costumes at the end. It made me so mad. I don't know why. It was a visceral reaction, especially
where the kids were the characters from the earlier in the movie.
Yes, I hated it. Especially the chest hair on her. I just couldn't deal. I was like, no.
Okay.
But this was really fun. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Without being overly negative about it, but you guys have both made me think. You've made me think about this film, this work of art.
Yeah, Sandler is, as I can tell from experience, I can say from experience, certainly an acquired taste, and he still does. They're not all winners, and when they are winners, they're like this. They're like, yeah, okay, that's you. Unless it's movie roles that he takes where it's not Happy Madison, and people are like, he should win an Oscar. Usually they're just like, it's fine. But it was number 1 on Netflix for the last couple days. Big Daddy was number 7 earlier in the week. Okay. So, Netflix is itching to do another 4 deals, even when he still has 6 more left on this deal. So he could be in for 10 films with Netflix. They clearly love having him around. He must be good for business somehow. They're putting, it sounds like based on the story you said, they're putting in other Netflix stars into his movies to kind of do some cross-platforming there. So that probably helps them out too. And so there's something about him that most of America still, despite him being almost in his 60s, find appealing throughout age ranges. So that's a very unique talent in and of itself, regardless of how well you think it works. And then some last notes. For some reason, Rob Schneider here is a co-producer. I don't know what he had to do to get that role or why he was one, and none of the other actors were, but, there you go. And poor Tim Meadows always gets the worst hair pieces in all of these films. It's usually a point of joke, but that might have been sort of a callback to the Grown Up series. As you were mentioning, Emily, there seem to be a lot of callbacks to older films in this. Last look. So for me, it's sort of just continuing in this trend of, Netflix letting Adam Sandler do whatever he wants because it seems to be working out fine. So, of course, he's going to go to a part of the country he likes being, his home, New Hampshire, well, nearby at least. So, he sets a movie in Salem. He gets to spend some time where he grew up for a couple of months. He gets to fly out all of his friends and family to do this movie with him. And he makes his movie probably for $60 million, and Netflix, whatever they get out of the film in subscribers, makes whatever profits they think they do off of him. And, as long as Netflix lets him do whatever he wants, he's going to do kind of these weirder, kind of quirkier type films. So why Netflix is letting him do it? Because clearly it works, and Netflix is trying to appeal to larger and larger demographics, so the things that they're really pushing are bigger and broader, more than when they were beginning. Long gone are the days of House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and BoJack Horseman, and you're just going to see more of these and Stranger Things and things like that. So any sort of takeaways you have before we sign off?
I think the Netflix thing is interesting because this is separate from Sandler, and my developing Stockholm syndrome is making me kind of want to defend him. And as I was watching it, like it's hard to be mad at him. Just something about his face, I'm like, okay. But I do think it's kind of gross, the idea. Like I hate. They're a tech company, and they're basically like, this number works, so we're going to keep doing this thing and repeating it and trying to kind of profit off of the nostalgia of those like classic Sandler comedy films. Mm-hmm. And you never know what's kind of like hype or what's true, but if he is the nicest guy in the world, it's great that he has this amazing job. I guess it always bums me out that, there's all these young creatives that, and women and, people of color who have to like break in, and then there are like Hollywood stars that get to make, these movies. But I mean, it's kind of the game with Netflix at this point. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's depressing.
No, you bring up a lament I've had on this show many times. Studios are becoming a lot like, and it's the same problem that's happening with sports teams, is everybody's just looking at data now. It's all sort of raw data that doesn't actually mean that much or translate that well, as you can tell by the string of the string of blockbuster bombs, and even the ones that are successful, like your Star Wars, everybody's still complaining about anyway. So. But like we keep feeding into it, and Netflix is sort of tricky because I don't know what they're looking at. No one
knows. They don't tell anybody either.
Exactly. So like with a movie, it's easy. If you don't want that movie to be done anymore, don't go see it. But with Netflix, like just by owning that subscription, you're tacitly endorsing everything they put out, the stuff you like and the stuff you don't. So like it's much harder.
I hate that. I feel complicit.
Yeah. So like that's sort of the tricky part is, but like, so like Netflix used to put out very interesting things. Now they're doing that less. If they do it much less, like what's the point of having that subscription anymore? I don't know. I could just go back to the DVDs. That's fine. That's mostly what I need from them anyway.
Do you have a Blu-ray player?
I do. Yeah.
Sorry. I haven't touched a DVD in years. But it's hard. I complain about Netflix, and I do think their tactics are creepy, but at the same time, I am lazy. So I do love having so much content digitally is so incredible. Yeah.
And this goes back to the murder mystery episode, but essentially it's just the natural life cycle of any media creator is like you start off small, so you have to take chances, you have to do more interesting things, and then as you get bigger, you need to now keep your bottom line up because there's too much money invested in you now, and you can't let those shareholders down or those CEOs down. So like here's sort of where we're trapped. The good news is, compared to at least when I was growing up and a little bit of when you were growing up, it's easier now to target your niche audience. So you can be that small creator. If Hollywood's not willing to do it, fine. But there are still ways outside of a movie theater and outside of Netflix where you can go and find that audience. You just have to do things at a more reasonable budget, which is, I think, very feasible because I think they overspend now. I think they spend way too much to do this stuff, and they could make more interesting things if they didn't. Like, I don't know, like I think of, to your, idea of fostering smaller, creative, more diverse voices. I totally agree with it. And it annoys me when a film like Batman vs. Superman comes out for $250 million or Justice League for $250 million that they're spending another $70 million to redo, when you
insane
could
amount.
make that movie for $100 million and then take the other $150 million and make 15 very interesting, unique voiced films at a very modest budget. You could even make more than that. Like, you could make a movie for $2 million these days. It's very easy now that you're not shooting film. But no, everybody wants to roll the dice and try to make $1 billion. They rather have $750 million in profit over $30 million in profit because it's sort of a sure bet when you're working with IP these days. So, like, here's where we're at now. So, folks out there, just go out and support sort of the voices and content creators you care about. Like, really do it. Find their Patreon, find their donation tip jar on Vimeo, and really help them kind of earn their meager living. What were you going to say, Emily?
No, yeah, I agree with that. Also, I wrote and produced a web series pilot called Livewire that Patrick directed. So when that is distributed and up, everyone should watch that as well.
Of course. And as we're wrapping up, Emily, do you have any other plugs besides that of course we'll hand out when the time comes?
Oh, just this podcast, baby. Listen to this. This is great. That's it. That's all I have coming
Yeah,
up.
it's sort of not a great advertisement since they're already here, but thank you for the vote of confidence in other episodes. That's very kind of you.
Yeah. No, and your upcoming The Rock episodes, I'm excited for those.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you on this week. Hopefully we'll get to bring you on again. I hope that all of your future writing projects go along very swimmingly. I can't wait for us to be able to share Livewire with the world. Joe had to bow out a little earlier, audience, so we'll sign off without him. Let's thank Lev Van Rensselaer, the audio maven, who's making the sound you are craving. Let's, of course, thank our sponsor, Yo Mama. Not sure if it's sort of a Scandinavian typo of Joe's Mama. We have yet to figure that out. And thanks, Emily, for coming by. I am your host, Patrick Scale. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, video essays at quixoticunited.com. Thank you all for listening. Emily, say goodnight.
Good night.
Classic baby move.
Yeah, I was just trying to rest for 5 minutes. I'm
Sure.
so tired.
Yes, thank you, Emily. Yes, you spooked Joe. He's afraid to be seen on camera because he's all nappy.
That's okay. I didn't know if we were turning cameras on, so I didn't want to be the only person.
Understandable. So we don't follow you for doing that. But Joe's not actively avoiding you. He
good.
He just is
I'm
self-conscious today.
I'm self-conscious and I am tired.
Oh, no, that's okay. I look like shit, so I'm good with not being seen.
Same here.
The quarantine has ravaged us all. It's true.
Yeah, but this is an oral medium, so I don't know how you say that.
Both are acceptable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys had some good weeks this week. Everybody's getting busy, getting jammy. Is that a word? Jammy?
I put my son in jammies.
Okay. Well, that's good.
How old's your baby?
He is almost 10 months and 3 days.
It is a very recent baby. They just took the cellophane off of him the other day.
It's a fresh baby.
Yeah.
He doesn't come in cellophane.
I don't know, Joe. I wasn't there.
Well, I was there, and that's not how it works.
The picture you sent, it kind of looked like he had cellophane.
What? What did I send you now? Hold on.
Yeah.
Patrick missed some health class lessons that seemed pretty vital.
I didn't send you any pictures of him in cellophane.
All I remember about that video about the babies being born is that it was narrated by John Lithgow.
What?
Yeah. Do you remember that video, Joe?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like a Nova video. Yeah, John Lithgow was narrating it, which was interesting because he was in 2010: A Space Odyssey, and I think he also turns into a giant space baby, or interacts with the giant space
baby. But you know
baby.
what bad take is? That someone said that John Lithgow is not a good actor, and I was like, "Fuck you." That's not true.
What were they referencing? Just like
every movie that they've seen him in, and I'm like, do you not get it? He's a little big.
Yeah, there's difference between bad actor and bad performer. Like if someone says bad actor, I assume we're making a aspersion on their whole career. Like bad performance, I'm like, yeah, sure. But that is a bad take.
I mean, we can't say Harry and the Hendersons is one of his finest, but he's had a pretty long and varied career.
Harry and the Hendersons is the first one you go to?
Well, I'm like trying to think of like what performance does he point to? Be like, that guy's not talented, and like I guess maybe there.
I think they were talking about Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and they said that he was not doing a good job of performing as if he had Alzheimer's. Dementia. And I'm like, it's a Planet of the Apes movie.
I was like,
he's not playing the father with Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, it takes me back to our the Dave
the movie's
Bautista
going to win Anthony
argument.
Hopkins' second Oscar.
What movie?
That's all I've been hearing. The Father.
I don't. Have you heard of this movie,
Emily? It played at
Emily?
Sundance earlier this year. It got very good reviews.
Okay, he was good in The Elephant Man. He's good.
I need to see that.
He's very understated in that movie, except for like one scene near the end. And you're like, all right. What you were going to say something, Emily? We interrupted you.
Sorry.
Was I? No.
Okay.
I think what we'll find is my film knowledge is it's going to be kind of deprived compared to yours. Patrick knows this about me, but I'm a TV person. I mean, I've watched films before, but so.
That's all right. That will work out great for this podcast. No worries at all.
I'll be a differing view because also, well, I realized while watching Hubie Halloween that I was like, maybe I'm not the perfect guest for this podcast because I thought about it. I was like, I don't think I've seen that many Adam Sandler movies.
Well,
no, you're the perfect guest.
I hadn't either when I started this, and some of our guests just haven't even watched movies. Just not
we
watched
had a guest
movies.
that had never seen a movie.
Yeah.
She had seen Sex and the City
movies.
too.
I will say I'm more knowledgeable than that, but yeah. No, so I was watching it, and then I was reading about how many, how many references to his kind of like classic comedic works there were in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe I would have liked it more if I cared.
That's
but,
okay.
I mean,
Listen,
that doesn't really matter.
well, let's save this for the main show, everybody. All right, okay. All right.
Here's an intro.
We're gonna dive on in here. Okay, you guys ready? Ready to rock and roll? Ready to jammy?
Let's go.
Okay.
Ready to fucking go.
Let's stake it.